All right, it's Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and there is so much happening, so much breaking news, and victory after victory continue pouring in. President Donald Trump scoring a major win with Mexico and Panama, pausing tariffs on Mexico for 30 days after the Mexican president caves. Trump saying the EU is next. You're on notice. We're going to explain what's happening. Also, major developments unfolding at the Department of Government Efficiency as Elon, acting under orders of the president, shuts the doors at USAID, saying we are shutting you down after DOGE discovered what appears to be like the largest U.S. money laundering scheme in history, and the deep state is in panic mode over this. USAID appears to have been the vehicle the deep states used to suck money out of the U.S. tax base and into their own pockets. Well, no more. The gravy train has come to an end. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So after only 48 hours of President Trump slapping a 25% tariff on all goods coming from Mexico, the Mexican president caves, surrenders, and agrees to all of Trump's demands. Trump agreeing to pause the 25% tariff he levied on Mexico Friday in exchange for them sending 10,000 troops to their northern border. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum promised to stop all cartel activity, all illegal trafficking, including stopping all fentanyl trafficking through her country. Sources who reportedly heard the call between Trump and the Mexican president say he was fine with keeping the tariffs in place, that these were Trump's demands after the Mexicans insisted, basically begging for a way out, that by the end of the call, the Mexican president promised to conduct a crackdown like you've never seen before. Trump giving her 30 days. If it's not to his satisfaction in 30 days, if even one bag of fentanyl is found or one illegal is found crossing the southern border, the deal is off. Trump sending his SecDef Pete Hegseth with Tom Homan to the U.S.-Mexico border this morning on orders to obtain 100% operational control down there. Trump writing on Truth Social, we agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a 1-month period during which we will have negotiations to balance the trade deficits between our countries, headed by Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-levels representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in these negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. Trump then spoke with Justin Trudeau this morning, right after wrapping his Mexico deal up, posting on Truth Social. He'll be speaking with him again at 3 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Trump provided Canada also with a list of demands this morning and gave Trudeau until 3 p.m. to deliver, or the tariffs, he says, will stay in place and they go into effect tomorrow. Canada is in a bad spot, folks. They have no leverage, and their ministers and premiers are freaking out, lashing out. Ontario's premier, Doug Ford, announcing this morning that his province is canceling its $100 million contract with Elon Musk's Starlink. British Columbia announcing they're going to no longer buy American liquor from red states only. And on the federal level, which is what matters, they're threatening to halt oil exports. But again, they have no leverage, and Trudeau knows it. Here's a map of the pipelines that carry energy for Canada, most of them passing through the United States. But pay close attention to the Energy East pipeline, which was canceled due to climate concerns. What this means is Canada has no way to get their oil to the eastern part of their country without sending it through the good old US of A. What this means is Trump knows exactly what he's doing. We're going to keep you posted what happens here, because once Trump solves Canada, or the Canada problem, which should be today, he says next is the EU, putting the European Union on notice. Watch.
We have massive deficits with the European Union, massive, like $350 billion, if you can believe it. They don't take our farm product. They don't take our cars. They don't take almost anything, but we take their cars. We have millions of cars coming in, BMW and Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen and just so many different cars, and we don't do anything about that. And we don't charge them tariffs. They make it impossible to sell cars in the European Union. They make it very difficult, agricultural product. They actually don't take it, and they have a lot of excuses. Some of them are the pesticides and the different chemicals used, and Bobby Kennedy actually is looking at that very, very seriously, because maybe it's not necessary to use all of that. You know, we want to be the healthiest country, and we're not. We spend more money on food than anybody else in terms of its creation, but we're not the healthiest country. So maybe there is something to the fact that we shouldn't be using so much chemical, and maybe that'll stop. But Bobby Kennedy is the one, because he is not a believer in all of the things we have done, and neither are the Europeans. So we'll see what happens. But they use it as an excuse not to buy our product. And I asked a couple of the leaders, I don't want to use names, but how many Chevrolets or Fords do you see in the middle of Munich? And the answer is none, because they don't take any cars. They don't take anything. So the European has abused the United States for years, and they can't do that.
In another story, Panama's president announced yesterday they are canceling the Belt and Road Initiative deal they struck with China in 2017. This comes just hours after Panama's president met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. This is what winning looks like, folks. Watch this.
Meantime, President Trump's foreign policy bearing fruit on other fronts. Panama now pledging to end a key development deal with China on the Panama Canal. The reversal coming following Trump's tough talk and a visit from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He spoke moments ago on working with the Central American nation to stem illegal immigration.
Recognize that many of the people who seek mass migration are often victims and victimized along the way. It's not good for anyone. The only people who benefit from mass migration are traffickers. And so this is a program that shows how cooperating with our strong allies here in Panama can help to stem the flow by creating a disincentive, by sending a clear message that if you come and you come irregularly, you may be stopped and you may be returned to your country of origin.
Marco Rubio writing on X yesterday, the Panama Canal is vital to America's national and economic security interests. We must remain vigilant in protecting this vital asset from the Chinese Communist Party. The Panama Canal is like a vital choke point for global trade. It's one of only a handful of places around the globe that could cause immeasurable disruption in the power dynamic if it were controlled by an adversary. You see this kind of thing happen in the Middle East all the time. It's why Iran has leverage over the U.S. when they threaten to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Well, the Panama Canal is way more important, moving over $250 billion worth of cargo annually, representing roughly 40% of all U.S. container traffic. Here was Trump a few months ago on the Tucker Carlson show explaining why we're even in this mess to begin with. Watch.
And you take a look at the Panama Canal. It was such an incredible engineering marvel. We sold it under Jimmy Carter. We sold it to Panama for $1. The following day, they quadrupled the amount of money that ships had to pay to get across. They didn't lose one ship. And now they've made it much bigger, and now they've widened it. They've doubled it, right? They've more than doubled it. And it's one of the most profitable things. Any time it's just incredible, right? We gave it away for $1. China now controls it. They actually control the Panama Canal. They run it, they control it. And we shouldn't let that happen. And we can't let China be in Cuba. And they'll get out. If I'm president, they'll get out. Because I had a very good relationship with President Xi, but he respected this country, he respected me. And he'll get out. And we can't let them run the Panama Canal. We built the Panama Canal. Should have never been given to Panama. We should have had it. But we gave it for $1. Think of it. They quadrupled. In one day, they lifted the fees, which are, pretty big, for these massive ships to go through, right? Rather than going around the Cape and through all the tremendous storms, such beauty, it's beautiful stuff. But you didn't want to get caught in those storms. Those were storms that wiped out the biggest ships. And we go through the Panama Canal, we built it, and we gave it away for $1. Think of that, how stupid are we? We have done the stupidest things in this country.
This victory coming after Trump doubled down yesterday on his threat to take back the Panama Canal by any means necessary, not ruling out military force.
Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal. What they've done is terrible. They violated the agreement. They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal. That was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen.
Well, step one is done, accomplished. Panama ending their deal with China, but there's way more work to do to ensure the Panama Canal never falls into the wrong hands again. In another story, Elon Musk announcing last night that USAID will be shuttered. All employees hereby on notice not to come into work at their headquarters after DOGE discovered what looks to be this massive widespread money laundering scheme at the agency. Watch.
Well, he said as part of DOGE's plan to aggressively cut spending and regulations, the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, a foreign aid agency, is going to be wiped out. Listen to this.
As we dug into USAID, it became apparent that what we have here is not an apple with a worm in it, but we have actually just a bowl of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. You've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing. It's beyond repair. So really, none of this could be done without the full support of the president. If I went over it with him, in detail, and he agreed with that we should shut it down. I actually checked with him a few times. Said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes." So we're shutting it down.
Nothing but a bowl of worms. Musk says he has Trump's blessing to end USAID as a standalone agency and will actually fold what's left of it into the State Department. If it turns out the U.S. really needs such an organization in the future, he says it could simply just be created again. Musk says, by the way, he will also meet with J.P. Morgan.
And over the last several days, there has been this huge fight taking place behind the scenes. Elon and DOGE moving into USAID after figuring out from the Treasury payment system that Elon gained access to a few days ago. We reported on that yesterday and the day before. What he found was the most insidious examples of government spending to the programs that Trump has been promising to end is coming from USAID. DOGE discovering the agency is being used to funnel our tax dollars into a slew of dark money projects that the American people have no clue are even taking place, such as millions for Bat Cove research in Wuhan, China in 2019, which they attempted to cover up. Or how about the billions that we learned this weekend they paid out to these NGOs responsible for organizing and aiding the wave of illegal migration into this country the last 4 years? But it's even worse. Some of the DC establishment's highest operatives appear to have been getting paid indirectly from USAID. People like Bill Kristol, of all people, who was listed as the president of Defending Democracy, the organization, and it turns out is an indirect beneficiary of USAID through Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. And these people are freaking out now that the gravy train is being shut down. Watch.
But the whole thing was in keeping with their plan to just gut the federal government. And trust me, the thing is, the story is far from over. Because on Friday, a longtime, well-respected Treasury official was forced out of his job after a dispute with Elon Musk over granting him access to the federal payment system that is essentially the country's entire checkbook. I mean, the system is so sensitive that typically only a very small number of career officials have access to it. Paychecks to federal workers go through it. Social security checks and tax refunds go through it. And sensitive personal information about everyone who gets those payments is in there too. Well, yesterday, we learned that Elon Musk and his DOGE posse have now been granted access to that federal payment system. So yeah, I know this all sounds scary. And I'm not here to minimize the impacts of a president gutting the federal government and taking a wrecking ball to the Department of Justice, but that's why we're going to keep talking about it. Luckily, I do think the country is realizing just how important government can be. And all it took, I hate that this is the case, was a president trying to stop everything the government does.
Hey guys, today is February 3rd. It's been since January 24th since the House has been in session. And the Democrats have been home the entire time, the last 10 days that all this stuff's going on. Okay, here's an idea. I'm sick of typing this out, so here's an idea, guys. How about all these agencies where employees are being locked out of? How about you send members of Congress with those employees to walk them into work? Or just send members of Congress to go into the building and investigate what these people are doing. Dare them to stop you because they can't. Okay, that's a free idea. Why is it that the former Republicans are the ones that are coming up with all the ideas? Get out there and do something. You're in the minority. Your message is your weapon. Use your message. Quit staying at home.
We're going to stay on top of this story because it appears like there is a lot here. You learn a lot when you follow the money. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.